Hey everyone, welcome to our November episode of Legends and Leapers. We're glad that you joined us today. I'm Anthony Barnes, AMAC's Chief Operating Officer, and we're glad that you joined us. Today, it's actually our very last Legends and Leapers just for this year, 2022. So we're really happy that we have a dynamic legend and a dynamic leaper joining us on today's call that you'll hear from just shortly. Before I turn the program over to our moderators, Lauryn and Ricky, I just wanted to remind everyone, our members and non-members, if you are in the Southwest region, we're having a AMAC stakeholders reception to talk, to learn, to invite individuals in the region to network with each other, to learn more about AMAC, and to learn also a little bit more about how to be involved in our annual conference coming up in June 2023, hosted by San Antonio International Airport. So if you are in the Southwest region, we invite you to join us on Tuesday, December 6th at 5 o'clock in San Antonio to join us there. You could find information for that event on our website. And at this time, I'd like to turn the program over to our moderators, Lauryn Mangum Reed, and our board chairman, Ricky Smith.
So Anthony, I don't know how to take that. I mean, am I a moderator as well, or am I just board chair? Is that a demotion?
You're both.
Oh, I'm both. Okay, thanks. I apologize for jumping on a little late. I think Lauryn sabotaged my link, so I wasn't able to get on in a timely manner.
I was ready to hold it down. We have about 70-something people here, and they're here for myself, Thiané, and Brandon, and then here you pop up. So it's fine, Ricky, but welcome to the party. Better late than never.
And that's exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be a party because we're going to have a good time. We have two amazing panelists. And yeah, we have another moderator, but we'll work through that. So welcome to this edition of Legends and Leapers, as Anthony mentioned. We're always excited to have these sessions because they give us an opportunity to hear I think we tend to think that we're going to hear a different perspective because, one is a legend and the other one's a leaper, but we don't always realize that. Sometimes we hear a lot of commonalities, but it's always good discussion, good conversation, some entertainment, but also some inspiration and education. And so I'm excited to be here. As you know, we do not tell them questions in advance. We try to have a little fun. We try to push them a little bit to get them to think outside their comfort zone. And I know Thiané is always outside of comfort zone. And so we're going to try to bring her inside the comfort zone a little bit. That's what we got to do with Thiané. And Brandon, you're here from it. I mean, you're an airline. You're an airline executive. Oh man, we're going to have some fun with you. Wait until we ask you about PFCs. It's going to be fun.
Lauren already told me, so I'm prepared.
All right, well, welcome, and I'm looking forward to having the discussion.
So Ricky, this Legends and Leapers is pretty interesting because after talking to Brandon and talking to Thiané, the only legend for real on here is you. So I'm just gonna throw that out there. We were comparing both of their just tenure and all of their experiences in the aviation industry, and I'm sure to them it seems like forever. But in comparison to you, sir, I mean, you were flying planes with Jesus, so they have not been doing this as long. But you guys are like on that cusp of a legend and a leaper. So we're gonna rock with it though. And Brandon,
who's controlling the microphone?
Brandon, we appreciate you being on here. This is our first time having an airline represented on Legends and Leapers, so this is really exciting. So I'm gonna start with Brandon. Brandon Fair is the managing director, corporate real estate at United Airlines, and has more than 15 years of leadership experience in commercial development and aviation. In this role, he oversees planning and development worldwide, focusing on long-term planning and execution to support United's global growth strategy. He also leads the corporate real estate DE&I strategy focused on engagement and growth for minority businesses. Prior to United, Brandon worked with KBR Building Group, an international engineering and building company specializing in engineering, aviation, and large-scale manufacturing development. During his time with KBR, he developed strategic projects for several large companies, including the Boeing Company, General Dynamics, Michelin Tire, and American Honda Motor Company. Brandon chairs the 2022 American Heart Association's Hard Hats with Heart campaign, which supports health and wellness within the construction and development industry. Last year, Brandon became a 2022 Chicago Urban League Fellow and is a 2023 candidate to become a Leadership Greater Chicago Fellow. He also serves on the board of managers of the Aviate Flight Training Academy. Brandon earned a Bachelor's of Science degree in Civil Engineering from North Carolina State University and holds a Master's of Science in Construction Management from Western Carolina University. Brandon and his wife, Mari, live in Chicago and have 3 children. Whew, all right. So you know what? We'll say this is a thing. Huh?
That was a mouthful.
It was, Brandon. I mean, now I'm like, is he really? You're tipping towards legend more so than anything, because I had to breathe a couple times. I'm a little out of breath after reading your bio.
Brandon, you got to give us something to say, right? So thank you. It's appreciated.
And don't read mine after that, because mine is 2 paragraphs and a sentence.
What you're not going to do is it's 3 paragraphs in a sentence, and I'm going to read it anyway because you deserve all of your flowers.
All my 3 paragraphs. Thank you very much.
Yes. Brandon's was only 4. It was just a lot of big words. Okay. So
that's fair.
Thiané Carter is the Director of Small Business Programs at Raleigh Durham International Airport. She has been the Administrator of Small Business Programs for the Raleigh Durham International Airport Authority, RDU, since 2011. As the Director of Small Business Programs, she oversees the management, implementation, and compliance of RDU's minority and women-owned small business and federal disadvantage and airport concessions disadvantaged business enterprise programs, as well as the Title IX program. She is also actively involved in RDU's diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Ms. Carter has served as the chairperson of the Scholarship Committee for the Airport Minority Advisory Council. She is the chair of the Business Diversity Committee of the Airports Council International North America. She is a graduate of both the University of North Carolina at Wilmington and the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, earning a Bachelor's of Science in Finance and a Master's of Public Administration, respectively. Before joining the authority, she spent more than a decade as the consultant to the U.S. Department of Transportation recipients, which included airports, transit systems, and state transportation departments on the DBE ACDBE program development and administration. What her bio does not say is that she is also a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
Because I knew you were going to say it, so I didn't have to put it down. So I knew that it was coming.
Yes.
Thanks, sis. Appreciate you.
So, everybody is shouting out their cities at this point. Jarrell, I am from Detroit, Michigan, just so you know, originally. Ricky, I guess we need to start doing regional legends and leapers because they are representing North Carolina. I feel like we should have had Petey Pablo come out and start us out on the show.
Lauren, I was just about to say, we are going to rename this episode as the North Carolina Legends and Leapers.
This is the North Carolina. Yeah, I like that. I like that.
You guys are representing.
So, are you okay with your introduction, Thiané?
Yeah, I wrote it.
I'm good all 3 paragraphs of it?
Yeah, I wrote it. It's fine.
All right, so let's get to a question or two. So my first question is going to be somewhat of a compound question. And you'll understand what I mean by compound question in a second. So, Thiané, your experience in this industry is on the airport side, right? To my knowledge, unless you left something out of your introduction, you haven't worked for an airline. Okay. And the reversal is true for you, Brandon. Correct? So, Shania, what I need you to do is to, from your vantage point, talk about what you think airlines could do better in terms of promoting and realizing diversity. Brandon, I want you to do the same thing for the airport. And Brandon, I want you to do the same thing with respect to airports. And here's the compound part. Both of you are probably going to be a little bit wrong.
Ooh.
And so, Chanya, I want you to correct Brandon, okay? And Brandon, I want you to do the same for Chanya.
Okay, so before you got on the phone, Ricky, we were just talking about programs that United has for the diversity or teaching young people or exposing young people to being pilots. And just this summer, my daughter had an opportunity to participate in a camp from the organization of Black aviation professionals. I think that's the whole name. And she went to the Charlotte airport. She visited airlines. She saw maintenance. She saw pilots. I have worked at an airport since the child was 4 years old. And this is the first time the child has ever said she wanted to be working at an airport. This is the very first time she ever said she would think about being a pilot, or that there were careers in aviation. And her mother has been working there her whole memorable life. Thank you for whoever put the whole organization in the chat. That is the name of the organization that offered my daughter the camp. Long story short is, I realized that while I have worked at this airport for her whole memorable life, I hadn't exposed her to aviation in a space where you could be a pilot, you could work at the airlines, you could be corporate side airlines, you could, I don't know what she thinks I do from 8 to 5 for her whole life. I'm not sure what she thinks happens here, but whatever it is, I didn't do a wonderful job of telling her that. And this camp that she went to actually did. So if I was going to give advice to airlines, there is a whole generation of kids that apparently has no idea who flies the planes, and that they too can fly the planes. And I don't know how we tell young people that, particularly one, I'm stuck on this because my daughter has lived with me her whole life and had no idea that someone was flying the planes. So if my daughter, who's been exposed to it and been riding on, flying for her whole life, didn't know that you can be a pilot and that you can do things in corporate at airlines, then I can only imagine to children who haven't been exposed to that level. So there's something missing. There's something not connecting in my own household, and I'm sure in other households, about what you can do at an airline. And I don't know if it's the best kept secret. I'm not sure how it's being kept, but we got to do something. So that's did I answer the question, Ricky?
Well, I mean, we're going to go with the answer that you provided.
Okay.
Because you get a follow-up, Brandon.
Ricky didn't know that question was going to be so personal.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I expect that from you.
Okay.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Well, let me first thank AMAC for having me on this. And by no means am I a legend. I'm just a regular guy who enjoys the aviation industry and what all it provides. Thank you for Ricky and Lauryn and Anthony for having us as well, and Thiané for being my esteemed colleague here on the panel. I think when you think about airports and airlines, their relationship, it's a very complex relationship. We need airports to serve our passengers. Airports need airlines to bring the passengers to the airport. And so at the end of the day, we always have to end up working together for the greater good of the passenger. I think speaking from a real estate perspective, where I see airports, the key spaces they play in, there's so many different types of roles that are in airports. You have development projects, you have concessionaires, you have support staff, you have TSA, you have CBP, and all of those entities work in harmony to make sure that we are moving passengers from point A to point B. I think there's tremendous opportunity within all of those groups to hire more diverse talent. I was recently on the south side of Chicago a few weeks ago, and Discover made an initiative to put one of their call centers down in a neighborhood in Chicago and hired primarily from that neighborhood. Rich talent that was ready to work was there in the neighborhood, and Discover went and tapped that talent. I think we can do the same thing in airports. And where I see a lot of projects being developed, where there's some minority participation and spend from a contractual standpoint required by the federal government, I think the airports can do more. We on the airline side have made a commitment to increase our participation, diversity, and inclusion and capacity. And I'm proud to kind of piggyback on what Thiané said. Just recently in Goodyear, Arizona, which is right outside of Phoenix, I told Lauryn I'll be traveling there this afternoon to go to the academy. We started an academy that is going to develop young pilots for the cockpit, but not only young pilots, specifically targeting pilots and young people of color and women as well. And we made a commitment to hire or train over 5,000 pilots over the next decade or so. And we made a commitment for those pilots to be 50% women or people of color. There's so much young talent out there, and we want to get them that exposure to the aviation industry. And so that's what we're doing. And I think that airports can also step up and do more on hiring diverse young talent that is going to grow the industry from where it is today to where it is going to be in the future.
All right. So I think I might abandon this compound concept because I'm not sure that the two of you are going to counter much because I think you're pretty much on target in terms of your perception of each other. So I will ask this question because I get this question a lot. Because people just generally don't imagine people that look like us, minorities and women, being in aviation, right? They just have a certain perception of what it means to be working in aviation, and that's generally associated with flying an airplane or being an air traffic controller, right? So, so I'm often asked, how did you get into this? What were you thinking when you decided to work at an airport? I mean, did somebody trick you into doing it? Were you inspired to do it? I mean, what was that magic bean that you ate that caused you to want to pursue a career in aviation? Is it something that you wanted to do as a child, or is it something that happened by accident, or some other reason why you ended up in this industry?
Brandon, you want to start with that one?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, Ricky, as a child, and my parents can probably attest to this, I wanted to be a chef, I wanted to be a professional bagger at a grocery store, and a plethora of other things. But growing up,
if you were a bagger, you would have had to do a plethora of other things as well to make a living.
Yeah.
But no, I grew up and I really liked imagining things. I liked seeing things to go from the ground, from nothing to something. So that's what kind of inspired me to be an engineer. I ultimately wanted to be an architect, but I didn't follow that path and I went into engineering. And after college, I went and worked for a building group who did a variety of development projects across the Southeast. But pointing kind of to my resume earlier or my bio, I did some work with Boeing Aircraft in Charleston, South Carolina. If you know, they are the production site for the 787 Dreamliner airplane. I did some work for Gulfstream down in Savannah, Georgia, where Gulfstream is a small lightweight business jet, and they do the assembly there. And then I did some work in my hometown of Greensboro for Honda Aircraft Company. So they are a subsidiary of American Honda Motor Company, and they have developed a revolutionary lightweight business jet. And I was afforded to do 2 projects there in Greensboro, in my own backyard for Honda Aircraft Company. So combine all that experience on airports and working around airplanes, it was just very fascinating to see kind of what was going on at the airport environment. So fast forward to 2015, I saw a post for United Airlines. I had done what I've been doing for a decade or so. And so I looked at my wife and said, hey, are we going to stick with this and live in North Carolina and live this life that we had imagined, or are we going to take this opportunity for United and go see the world? I took the opportunity with United and moved to Houston, Texas in 2015. And literally 30 days into joining United, one of our leaders came to me and said, hey, we're getting ready to do an airport development project here in Houston, $300 million, 14 new gates, and hey, we want you to lead it. I kind of looked inside myself and said, I don't know what the difference between a ramp and a PCA and a GPU unit and everything else was an airport, but I'm not going to turn that type of opportunity down. So I took the lead on that project down in Houston. It was ultimately successful. I ended up moving to Chicago to lead the planning and development group. But I really think what brought it together was my passion and enthusiasm for development, seeing something new, along with being able to travel the world and the opportunities that aviation affords to individuals. And merging those two, working in the airline industry, seemed like a really good fit for me. And so I'm excited about the industry where we are, but I'm more excited about the future. United's announced we're going to grow more than any other airline in the world, and what that means are more opportunities for small, diverse businesses when it comes to corporate real estate and connecting people from all different parts of the globe to even more cities around the world. And I think when you take a step back and look at life and what life is supposed to be about, it's really about people, it's really about community, it's really about being able to experience other cultures. And I think the aviation industry, specifically the airline, affords you to do that like no other business around the world, quite frankly.
Okay. I don't know if I can follow that up. I don't even know.
It's too late to lead it, so you're going to have to follow it now.
That's
And
fine.
you did, and in Brandon's defense, you gave him the floor and told him
Because
to start off.
That's right.
it's true. So I'll be honest, straight out of college, I started working for a consulting firm that did DBE plans exclusively. So I was developing the DBE plans, maybe presenting them to airports or transit systems or whatever. And what I took from that was that these plans that I was developing were getting people business, brown people and women. They were getting business from these goals that I was setting. And as I dug into that, it was, oh, I could help people get contracts. I can help people build their businesses. I can help them grow. And so I'm not entirely sure that I ever chose aviation. A good government job came up at the Raleigh-Durham airport, and I needed a good government job. And it afforded me the opportunity to build those businesses, to meet those people, and to create connections with those people. And long term, I've been able to see businesses that didn't exist when I got here grow to multiple locations. I've been able to see people be hired and families be grow and develop based on contracts that they've received here. So I don't know that I ever selected aviation, but what I selected was the ability to help change things, make things better. At the Raleigh-Durham airport specifically, I have been able to watch us grow. I don't know what things were in the 80s and 90s, but what I've seen from since I've been here is that we are open to change. And so the picture of what it looks like to work at an airport has changed in the 12 years I've been here. It is not what it was. And I'll, because we're all family here, I'll say, you know, it was white and male for a very long time. And it was button shirts and whatever you wear with button shirts, right? So now there are brown people who wear their hair in afros and braids, people with tattoos. And I feel like that is a change that I have helped to make. And that feels good, honestly. It feels good to know that we are pushing outward towards being inclusive. And I've had that opportunity here. So good government job and small businesses. That's why I'm here.
Ricky, and I'll add on that, Ricky, to your point. You know, when I tell people I work for United, they say, "Are you a pilot?" And I tell them there's so much more to aviation than just pilots. There are employees that work on the ramp. There's above the wing customer service employees. There's management employees. There's flight attendants. And I think there's just more opportunity now than there's ever been, as Thiané said, to get people of minorities and people of color into some of those opportunities within aviation. And I'll tell you, I don't know if Thiané, if you feel the same, but kind of once you get into the aviation in this business, it consumes you. You love it. You love the aspect of it, the energy of the airports, knowing that you can be in Raleigh and 12 p.m. and be in Hong Kong 12 hours later. There's a certain excitement about that too as well. And so I would share with everybody on the call, if you're interested in aviation, if you're interested in something that, you know, transcends the normal 9 to 5 or pushing paper, the aviation industry is one that I think will always keep you interested and engaged.
Brandon, you were my buddy prior to about 2 minutes ago, because I was just about to ask a question about misconceptions. Okay. And then you just jumped in and you said what you said, but I'm still going to kind of go along that line of thought process. So you are our first airport represented on Legends and Leapers. One of the things that we're always talking about, and we as a whole are always talking about, I'm always talking about how aviation industry is arguably one of the only industries where you can literally have any background you could possibly think of and find a space that fits you within our industry, right? And so we're always talking about different aspects of aviation outside of the airlines. Because when people, like you said, when people think of aviation, they think of the airport, they think of a pilot, they think of the gate agent, etc. So what are some misconceptions that you want to be able to address representing the airline, just as far as the plethora of opportunities within the airlines? And Thiané, I'm going to ask you the same question as far as the airport is concerned as well.
Yeah, Lauryn, I think you just hit on it. Absolutely. If you have a legal background, we have a host of attorneys that work for the airline. If you like to cook, we serve a lot of food on our airplanes. We have catering facilities around the world. We are looking for people that can help us with our culinary experience on board. What if you have a sales background? We do a lot of sales to corporate clients. We sell tickets every day. And so what I'm trying to highlight here is that people of all backgrounds, there is a place for you in aviation. Whether it's, you know, on the forefront, pilots and flight attendants, or something that's a secondary type job. for instance, what I do, I'm in development. You wouldn't necessarily think that an airport or airline does a lot of development. We do 400 to 500 million dollars a year of development around the world. So we think of airports, concourses, clubs, break rooms, support spaces, lobbies. My corporate real estate team, we are responsible for all of that across the airline. And what that does is we're a support function for the airline. So I don't fly the plane. I'm not a flight attendant. You wouldn't want me on the front line because I'll probably be a horrible customer service representative. And I shout out to all of those that are. But we provide those support functions and facilities and things that'll make the operation run smoother. So, one of those misconceptions is that you have to be a pilot, you have to be the flight attendant, or it's hard to get in. We're hiring probably over 50,000 new employees over the next 3 to 5 years as we continue to grow. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And I would say even to our airport partners too as well. We're growing in Denver, we're growing in LA, we're growing in Washington Dulles, Ricky's backyard. And so as we do that, then we're going to need the airports are going to need employees too as well, because passenger growth coming out of the pandemic is surging more than we've ever seen.
So I don't want to double on to what he just said, but I'm about to double on to what he just said. The airport only has 340 positions here at the Raleigh Durham Airport Authority. That's who works for the authority. But on the campus, we have FedEx, we have UPS, we have all of the concessionaires, we have the parking people, we have a plethora of careers that are operating here that are not connected to the airport authority. And when I got here, I didn't realize there's about 10 of us that work for the airport. Everybody else works for somebody else, like literally someone else. And you would not imagine the number of companies that are operating here that you can have a career with, from all the way to parking the cars to the CEO level of the airport authority. So if I had a misconception, I guess the misconception would be either you're flying the plane or I don't know what else they think we do here. Just the planes, I guess. Maybe, I don't even know. But, or you're doing the luggage. Yes, they want to know if we do the luggage. I don't do that either. And the airport doesn't do that either. That's all Brandon's people. But the point is, there are a million things you can do here that I just feel like nobody knows about. And from whatever your educational background, obviously I have a finance degree. I never dreamt that I was going to work at an airport. That was not the plan. You can do pretty much anything with almost any educational level.
All I know is Shanye gets to fly free, and Brandon, you get a lot of holidays, don't you?
So that's the thing I don't understand.
Number one misconception.
We don't get to fly free. I don't even know who works at the airlines. They don't recognize me when I'm in the terminal. I do get free parking sometimes. That's it. Now Brandon flies. He flies free.
Well, I'll say on a lighter note, one of the misconceptions is that anybody that you know that works for an airport airline, we have no control of the schedule. We have no control over cancellations. So if you're going to complain, there's nothing that we can do. I say that kind of teasing as well. But yeah, no, that's just, it's funny when you run into friends and the first thing they say is, oh, my flight got canceled. What are you going to do about it? So,
Yeah.
So do not call Brandon if your flight is delayed on United, is what Brandon just said.
right.
So Brandon, you coming from the airport, right? We hear from Thiané, we hear from small businesses, airline. We hear from Thiané, we hear from small business offices, business diversity, etc. As it pertains to the airline, I don't know, if there's any requirements there or whatnot, but does the airlines or different aspects of the airlines work with small businesses or partner with businesses outside of United?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what do those opportunities look like?
Yeah, absolutely. Since I got to United probably in about 3 or 4 years ago, me and a couple of my colleagues, mainly Dee Mitchell, who supports me here at United, we made a conscientious left turn to think about how we engage small businesses a little bit differently. Historically, it's been all about spend. How much money have you spent with a minority business? And if you think about that as your primary metric of measurement, then that can be a little bit distorted. Let's take, for example, you spend $1 million and you spend $1 million with one firm. You have one firm that spent $1 million. Now, if you have 10 firms that spend $100,000 each, couple that they're new, And you've got 10 new firms that are in the aviation pipeline, not only for the airlines, but also for the airports, because airport development is booming across domestically and internationally. But you've got 10 new faces that are at the table now, and I'll use this term, at our disposal, that we can, help us build around the airports. And so what we did is we said, spend is great, but we want to build capacity through bringing new minority firms on board with us here at United. Over the 50 minority firms and the 50 plus that we've used just this year, we've contracted with over 25 new firms that have never worked with United Airlines. And that's a testament to our team going out and really networking, conversing, meeting new people, but not only that, translating those interactions into contracts on the projects that we build. So like I told you, Lauren, heading down to the Aviate Academy in Goodyear, Phoenix this afternoon, we are going to develop a project that goes from conceptual planning to design to program management to execution. It's going to be solely developed by a group of minority firms. That's an opportunity that you would never see in the past or before. And so what we are trying to do at United, and I can't speak for the other airlines because I don't think they're doing this, we're trying to think about diversity differently. If we do and implement this plan that we've outlined, not only are we going to have new faces and new entrants into aviation, but we're also going to hit that spin that's been a historical metric. So we kind of get a 2-for-1. And so that's how we're thinking about it. Yes, there are opportunities. There are billion-dollar development programs either being developed by the airlines or being developed by the airports across domestically across the country. And so there's opportunity there. Just here in Chicago, we've got a development at O'Hare. Thiané has worked on Terminal 2 there in Raleigh that just came online in the last decade or so. Big projects with lots of opportunity there. And I would say small businesses should reach out to their airport business offices or reach out to the airlines if they're developing them too as well. And not only say what's going on, say, I want to be involved in this. How can I be involved in this? And if we're hiring directly, that's something that we can do, or we can team them with prime vendors or companies that are responsible for that development.
So let me ask this question.
Yep.
And just for the audience, I'm not going to ask Brandon the PFC question. Okay, I'm not going to ask it. That's not really his question.
Yeah, that's for another time.
Right, that's not your question to answer anyway. So, but I do have this. So this is somewhat of a test case, if you will. The AMAC membership is very dependent on, very interested in the DBE program and the ACDBE program. There's an enormous fear that if those programs go away, that many of the opportunities that they enjoy would also go away to a large degree. So I want to get your perspective on how real is that fear. And I'm asking that because airlines are exempt from those programs. And Brandon, I'm sure you would say that you're, to some degree, proud of the work that United does in terms of supporting small and minority-owned firms without a regulation requiring you to do it, right? So I would like to get your thoughts on that, both you and Thiané, in terms of is that fear real or is it perceived?
Thiané,
So Ricky,
since I took it last time.
So Ricky, I think we can all look to Western states and the what happened with Western states and when they removed the DBE program or made it race neutral, where the participation went. I mean, it just dropped. It just plummeted in those states where there was no race conscious goal set. And I think it's a fallacy for us to pretend like if we went away, if those programs went away, the participation would just stay the same. That's imaginary and that's false. We've seen it happen in places where they go race neutral. Now you can make it work, if you have to, but it takes a lot of intentionality and determination on the part of leaders to make a race neutral program have the same effect that a race conscious program has. So if the question is what happens when the program goes away, the answer is participation drops to zero or close to it. People carrots and sticks, the sticks seem to work. And I'm just very pro keep these programs in place because it's not imaginary to know we've seen it happen. It's going to drop. So that's my soapbox for that.
I would agree with Thiané. And I would say that we United Airlines, we support DBE programs. We adhere to DBE programs. We do a lot of work actually for the government on behalf of the government to develop airports. And not only do we meet, we exceed those goals. We have to create opportunities for small and diverse businesses. That is, and I think we would be naive to think that there are some parts of the government that don't want these programs. I think that we need them. I think that they're important and vital to the small business community. And I think that we will, and I will personally commit to continue to fight for small and diverse businesses, not only on the government side, but also on the airline side too as well, because not only is it good for growing our communities, our business, it is good for the airlines business too as well, to have representation from the communities that we fly to, that we rely on for our business to provide those opportunities. So I think it's important, it's vital, and it's something that we as AMAC, as a industry, as minorities, should continue to voice to our congressional professionals that it's something that needs to stay in place.
So while unless Lauryn's about to ask a question, I'll ask one. All right, so
go ahead, Ricky. Go.
So I'm gonna shift again. I'm gonna shift again. So and this is normally a type of question that we would ask earlier in the program, but I want you to look back on your professional lives, and I'm sure each and every one of you had to overcome some hurdles or some obstacles. It might have been, a decision that you made or a decision you didn't make, or whatever it might be. Can you look back and can you point out one of those decisions that you made or obstacles that you had to overcome that perhaps you would address differently now, knowing what you know now?
Shay?
No, you know what, Shanye? Bingo. Whenever, this is what we try to accomplish. We try to get the panelists to look up in the air.
So I will say this. I think I feel like everybody knows this, but for a period of time, I left the airport. And the reason I left the airport was I didn't feel like I was growing professionally. I didn't think it was working for me. And so if I had to do it again, I would have left sooner. I would have chosen myself sooner. And when I came back to the airport, I came back with a different point of view towards work, towards whatever work-life balance looks like, towards the reason that I'm here, towards my purpose on this earth. I came back with a reason that was different than it was when I left. So had I left sooner, I might have come to all of that a little sooner. I am thoroughly excited about being here, but I know the reason I am here, and I would have chosen myself sooner.
Yeah, that is an interesting question. Makes you reflect on your career. As I get more experience and older, your focus starts to turn on to the people that are within your organization, the people that you lead. And sometimes you get wrapped up so much in your day-to-day, or we have to get this accomplished, so on and so forth, that you end up putting bodies in a chair or in a position that may not be the right fit. And so I've had instances in my career where I've kind of taken the easy button and said, okay, you go do this, without making sure it was the right fit for the task at hand. And sometimes I think, take one step back to take two steps forward. If you stop and you pause and you make sure you're looking at your organization or your team as a whole, the mission that is in front of you, and you're putting your team and your people in the right place to succeed, I guarantee you'll have a better outcome, and you'll actually reach that outcome faster than just putting somebody in there because you need quote unquote a warm body. And so I really take pride. It's really important to me that we hire the right people. We hire people that are culturally aligned and fit with what we're trying to do at United, and people that can, have the highest integrity, the highest ethics, ones that make sure that, we are adhering to all the things that we are trying to do. And so that's probably the biggest takeaway is make sure that you stop, you pause, you think about anything you're doing, whether it's hiring or a project that you're working on or X, Y, and Z, and that you put a plan together. That maybe it's the engineer in me. I put a plan together in my head, then I execute off of that plan. But also you have to know that sometimes plans change. And when they do, you can take a pause, reset, and then continue to move forward.
Now that brings up a really good point. I'm glad you mentioned that, Brandon, because I'm going to ask as Ricky calls it, a compound question, which is really just a loaded question that may only get partially answered. But so the first part of my question is for Brandon. The second part of my question is for both of you. Brandon, when we started the discussion, you mentioned that you were in your position in Houston for, I don't know if you said 9 months or 15 months. And then someone was like, hey, we got another opportunity opening up. Do you want to take it? And at the time you were thinking, wait, why me? I haven't been doing this long. I don't think I'm qualified. What were you doing in that role? What do you think you were doing in that role that made that individual look at you and say, he's not qualified, he hasn't been here long, but whatever he's doing is showing me that he is ready and this would be a perfect position for him?
Yeah, I would say I wouldn't categorize as not qualified. I would say maybe not ready yet. But okay. I think I'm qualified to do anything, but that's maybe just me thinking highly of myself. But no, what I think is the ability to bring people together, find commonality, and push something forward. And even if you're not a subject matter expert on any particular field or whatever, there are common themes or threads in leadership. You must listen to what other people are saying. You must be a decisive decision maker. You must be accountable for your team's actions. These are all things that transcend no matter what you're doing, whether you're in banking or aviation or construction or hospitality. And so what I thought I brought to the table is being able to, one, develop a comprehensive plan, being able to put the right people in the right place to execute off that plan, being able to listen. And I think that's a really big trait, is listening before talking. A lot of people love to offer up their opinion. Before somebody can even finish their sentence, they're offering up their opinion. You can, again, stop, pause, listen. There's a little bit more underneath what people are saying, and it actually makes you a more effective leader because you can take what they're saying and you can kind of meld it into strategy. And so I believe I demonstrated a lot of those qualities very early on that said, hey, well, you may have only been here for 30 or 45 days. We see this in you, and we think this is the skill set that we need to help us execute on this project, then ultimately get me into the role that I have today.
That's awesome. So unlike Ricky, I started with the first part of the question, even though I prefaced it was going to be a loaded question. This is the second part of my question. So my second part of my question is, I'm always talking about succession plan, always talking about the next generation. How are you guys have made a name for yourself. You guys have opened doors that someone probably has opened for you, right? How are you creating opportunities and opening doors for the next generation of women and minorities in positions of leadership? And also, what are your larger organizations doing as far as putting people of color in positions of management?
Well, that was loaded.
It was. Tricked you.
You did. Mm-hmm. So I will say this. I can't imagine, don't know, can't see where I would be if women in particular had not opened doors for me, had not been kind to me, had not pulled me to a side and said, don't say that again, don't wear that again, don't do that again, right? Like, there have been women in the space, men too, but I'm specifically referring to the women who were instrumental in building me up as a professional. And one of them specifically mentioned my personal brand early on and said, you are your brand, no matter where you're working. Whatever is on your business card is one thing, but who you are when you walk into the room came before you, right? So who I am, what competencies I have, they precede me because people have told me to do these things and be this way. And it is my honor and privilege to do that for anyone who is behind me. And I say that because I don't plan on sitting in this chair forever. I plan on getting them from this chair. And I intend to have people who can say about me that I helped, that I spoke to them kindly, that I gave them advice, that I did that for them, particularly women, because I just feel like women need more of that. I love the guys. I promise I do, but I'm just saying that, and I do, Ricky, I do, but I got a special place in my heart for women who want to be professionals, who want to put themselves together and to step into a room and be known for what they can bring to that room. And so personally, that is what I try to do for anybody who's coming through, but particularly for women. And in terms of my organization, I believe my organization is realizing, like all organizations are realizing, that the way we have gotten staff and retained staff and cared for staff can't go on this way. I think the pandemic has changed how people expect to be treated at work, how they expect to be promoted at work, how they expect to be dealt with and handled. And I think my organization is realizing the big wide world is going to be different. And so we're being different. And I think that's an ongoing process for us. I think that we are evolving towards that. And I love to see it, love to see it. Okay. But that's a process for us. So I think in speaking to that, our executive staff is very diverse. We are working on the rest of the staff. We are working on what is going to work for the rest of the staff. And I'm proud of that.
I'll tell you this. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Brandon.
No, I was going to echo everything that Thiané said. And, very quickly, I would say, what's important to me now, I think, as I, get further along in my career, is what you just described, Lauryn. Building something or doing X, Y, and Z is great. But I think what I want to be known for, what I think I want us as minority leaders to be known for, is bringing up and exposing and providing opportunities for that next generation. We talked about before, Black and brown people not historically, seeing aviation as a potential career or a pathway. It is on us as leaders on this call to make sure that we, find those young people, we expose them to them, but then we help them get into the sector, the aviation sector. And so what I see, one of my many purposes, but one of my sole purposes, and I'm proud of, is the minority participation minority program that we put in place here at United. I feel like that is going to be part of my DNA and my legacy for my current role, and I want to be known for it too as well. But I also want to be able to speak with groups like this and other groups too as well, to show them the faces of minorities and people of color that are in the industry before. Because if you don't see it, then you don't know it's out there and that you can do it. So I think forums like this, the AMAC conference, other organizations throughout the country too as well, it's incumbent upon us to get out there and reach the young people because they are going to be the ones that carry on forward with what people in front of us have built and what we're building today and what we know will be built in the future.
Well, we're going down the home stretch now. We're going to have to end the show at some point because we got to let Shanya get out of her seat. But before then, I do have one more question. I had to get that one in, Shanya. We have a lot of these shows and a lot of great speakers, and all the speakers say stuff that have lasting impressions. I'm leaving this show with two profound statements. One, you chose yourself, Thiané, and Brandon, qualified to do anything. Both of those are statements that are going to stick with me. So I'm going to ask the two of you to share with us, if anything, that you learned from each other.
Yeah, I'll start. Among many things I learned from Thiané today, love her confidence. I think confidence is one of the biggest things that minorities, women, historically lack. And Thiané has the confidence, I think, to do anything to make her voice heard, but not only make her voice heard, to actually implement change. And I think, again, like I said before, those are the things that we have to do. We are sitting in a seat for a reason. We have to use our seat to promote good. We have to use our seat to get exposure and opportunity for others. And I see that the work that she's doing at the Raleigh Durham Airport is the exact work that we need across the globe, candidly. And we as airline partners to our airports, we need to do our part. And it's good and refreshing to hear, the airport's perspective too as well, because like I said at the beginning, it's a symbiotic relationship. We need the airports and the airports need the airlines too as well. So it's best that we kind of partner together to provide that opportunity, that exposure. It's just going to be good business for all.
So I learned a bunch from Brandon, but this being the first airline representative that we've had, I honestly had never met an airline executive, particularly one that, how do I say this, Ricky? You probably don't know because you don't say anything politely. His actually walking the walk and doing the thing, right? Like he's flying off to expose more young people to pilots and expose them in aviation and doing the thing. We have a whole bunch of people putting programs in place and then putting it in their ESG reports. There's a difference with the people that are actually going off and doing the thing and representing in a way that our youth can see them. There's a person that looks like you standing in front of them. And so I'm just excited to have met you.
Did she just say, I don't say anything politely?
Am I wrong? Was I
I
wrong?
would have said doing the damn thing, by the way. So,
All right, sir.
Well, just want to. Oh, okay. Well, I just want to thank everyone. We've come close to the top of the hour, and want to thank our panelists for today, Thiané and Brandon. Thank you for those inspirational and thought-provoking words and sharing your thoughts. Also want to thank, of course, our moderators, Lauryn and Ricky, for all of the episodes that you've done for this year. You can relive the episodes from this past year on our YouTube page. We also invite you to join us and follow us on all of our social media accounts. And at this time, we want to wish you a safe and happy holiday season. We're not going to be meeting next month during the month of December. We usually take that time off for the holidays. So we'll be meeting back up again in January. So again, thank you for joining us. And please stick around if you can for a few minutes for the after show. Thank you.
I got questions. Thank you. So, my first question is, Soror.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if Ricky is saying your name correctly or straight butchering it. For the people, can you please?
Lauryn, I know how to say her names.
Wow, is that what we're doing? We're just killing everybody's name now? All right.
And poor Brandon. Brandon's hearing me say it one way, hearing Ricky make you French or something.
I'm saying it a different way.
Ricky's making it French, and it is French, but not in Ricky French.
With the hints of Portuguese.
It's definitely got some razzle dazzle when Ricky says it.
And a twang of Creole. So
I'm just adding some love to it. That's all.
Okay, let's be clear. When your name is Thiané Jara Carter, you have to answer to what people call you. I don't care, because you will spend your whole life trying to correct every person, right? But it's Thiané.
Like, for example, some people call me Ricky. It's Ricky.
Nobody calls you that, sir.
It's
Nobody
Ricky.
calls you that. No, nobody calls you that, sir. Not one person. Not one person. It's not true.
So from this point forward, Thiané, with Ricky, how's Ricky saying it?
I don't know. Go ahead and say it, Ricky.
I said Thiané.
Yeah, right. He's got an accent over the end. So
okay, look, that's my Baltimore accent, okay?
No, it's not, sir. You are not putting that on Baltimore. You're not going to do that. No. It is Thiané.
So, Brandon, in other words, we've been saying her name correctly for the past hour, as Ricky has been saying it completely wrong. But you know what? It's okay. When you know better, you do better, sir.
Love to see it.
We'll give Ricky a pass on this one.
Thank you, Brandon.
We always give Ricky passes. I just wanted everyone, all 100-something people that were on here today, to know that when they see the confident Miss Carter walk through the door, how to pronounce her first name appropriately. Indeed. That's all I wanted.
Brandon, I have to get your email address because I don't think I have it.
Brandon, so can you tell us, people were, Ricky had BWI banging in the chat, talking about the programs that BWI has going on.
I didn't see that. Okay.
Yeah, we got a lot of good comments as far as the discussion, but somebody was like, BWI has this program, and some other things. But Brandon, you mentioned the program that you guys have going on in Goodyear. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So probably 2 to 3 years ago, United decided to buy a flight academy. And maybe fast forward back, Ricky knows this as well. We are at a deficit for pilots moving forward. Pilots are an industry issue, not only to United, but all the airlines too as well. And so what do you do when you need more pilots? You go buy a flight school and you produce your own pilots. So we bought a flight school called Westwind Flight School several years ago. We moved it from one side of Phoenix into Goodyear, which is on the other side of Phoenix. Previous to us getting on campus, Lufthansa, German Air Force, actually used to train their pilots on this campus too as well, and they still do today. But we moved over to Goodyear, and really what it is going out and finding young students. And when I was there earlier, I'm going back again today. I mean, talk about making you feel old. And they are young, like 18, 19 years old. And I'm like, wow, this is going to be the future of the generation that's going to be flying the planes for us. But no, and it's an immersive 9 to 12 month program where you have instruction-led curriculum, you have simulator-based curriculum. Actually, you get into a simulator of an airplane and you fly it there in a static position. Then they have actual aircraft training too as well. And so you spend 9 to 12 months, and on campus there, people come from across the country. You train, and then you get to about 250 hours. Once you do that, then you can either become what is called a CFI, Certified Flight Instructor, where you train other young people. You can go fly with regional airlines, so on and so forth, until you get to your 1,500 hours, which then allows you to go fly for mainline commercial airlines too as well. And so what we did there, we're working with JPMorgan Chase on providing scholarships for that program too as well. But like I said before, we know we need pilots. I think we need, I may have said 5,000, but I think we need 10,000 more pilots by the time 2030 too as well. And then we want to change, the dynamic in the cockpit. And we want to get on board. And when you get on board and you look to the left, you just don't want to always see 2 white males. You want to see people of color too as well. And so really interesting program. We will just graduate our first cohort December this year. So 12 months in, our first graduating class is this year. And then we start rolling in students every month, moving forward in 2023. I think we have about 200 students right now, and we ultimately want to get up to about 500 students per year. So we have some lofty goals there in order to grow in that population or the student base there. So my team on the real estate side, we're supporting growing the facilities there, more simulators, more aircraft hangars for maintenance, more classrooms, administrative spaces, more dormitory rooms. It's like a small college there that these students come to and stay in. So I'm headed down to meet with Lufthansa tomorrow morning, along with our Aviate leadership as well, to really kind of make sure that we have a good solid plan that we can kind of reach the numbers that we're trying to achieve.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. So Thiané, now you know where you need to send your daughter, since she's officially interested in the aviation industry.
Clearly. I got a whole connection.
Lauren, you know what the problem is? One of the issues that we're finding is we have so many applicants. I think we had like 19,000 applicants. It's some crazy number.
Oh, wow.
And we obviously can't handle that many by any means. And we're trying to just figure out how to get the pipeline moving. We've had enthusiasm more than you can imagine throughout the program. So that's why we're growing the program. But to grow the program, it takes several years as well. So we're trying to figure out how to fast track that. But it's good and refreshing to see that excitement. I think in our first graduating class, we had over 70% of women and people of color. So we smashed the 50% goal. 2/3 are going to be minorities as well in this first graduating class.
That's amazing. And Dee Mitchell dropped the link in the chat for anyone that's interested in getting their youth involved in the program.
I got to shout out Dee. Dee is on my team at United. She keeps us organized. She keeps us focused. Dee is a rock star for the United team, and I wouldn't be here without her. So
go Dee.
Go Dee.
So you mentioned something. I won't be long. I just have so many questions. Like this, you guys are amazing.
I gotta get on my flight though, Lawrence. You gotta let me go at some point.
Well, you're coming my way, so we're gonna talk anyway. But I have one more question, because both of you guys have DEI backgrounds. Both of you guys have really talked about being the change that you want to see. You talked about things not just being words or check boxes. just real quick, and I always like to address this. And we talked about it a little bit, but as far as diversity, equity, inclusion, are you guys putting in any more additional opportunities or programs within your organizations or anything that you're doing outside of your organization to really truly promote, and really bring people in as far as diversity, equity, and inclusion is concerned?
Brandon, I'm gonna let you go because you got a plane to catch.
Yeah, no, we absolutely are. I mean, go to United's page, and if any of you all know our president, Brett Hart, our chief diversity officer, Jessica Kimbrough, we're doing things on the macro level for United, reaching out to, we've made a scholarship investments in historically Black college and university golf teams. We do university days all the time to try to attract young talent. So we're doing that at the macro level. For us, corporate real estate, as I said, with all the development going on at the airports, we are really trying to not only find talent for us, but we're trying to connect talent to the airports with their development programs. Ricky, in your backyard, MY is about to embark on a redevelopment program there, or a development program there at Dulles for us that we're super engaged with to make sure that we can provide any and all support for minority small businesses. Same thing with here in Chicago. So really being a conduit, I think, between various entities is one of the opportunities that we can provide, and my team provides, specifically on the development standpoint, with so much work going on out there, especially over the next several years and decade.
Right,
What
stuff.
he said.
Yes. Well, we know Brandon has to split. Thiané, can you hang around for another hour or so?
No, not an hour. No. I'm gonna hang around for a few minutes, and we're gonna chat it up for another few minutes, and then it's gonna.
But Brandon, you're gonna be in my backyard, so I'm gonna shoot you a text message.
Yep, sounds good. It was a pleasure, everybody. I enjoyed it. Love to come back again, but if not, I'll definitely see you at the conference next year. So.
Hey,
It was good meeting you, Brandon.
Good talking with you, Brandon. Be safe, man.
All right, take care.
North Carolina in the house.
Absolutely.
Brandon got people moving their frequent flyer miles over to United.
There we go. Bye, everyone.
All right, man.
Take care.
All right, Ricky, you can have the floor for the last minute.
I just want to practice saying her name so I don't screw it up anymore.
Is this what we're doing now? Thiané. I don't want you to make it more complicated than it is. It's definitely Thiané.
Thiané.
Come on.
Thiané.
Say it again, Ricky.
Thiané. Thiané.
It's very simple. It's wonderful.
Look at us teaching the old dog new tricks.
Wait a minute.
Are you happy, Lauryn? You happy?
Wait a minute. Y'all get real violent after a while, don't you?
Look, Legends and Leapers is a contact session.
I see that. I didn't know what to expect. I'm gonna be clear. I didn't know what to expect from y'all.
Did she just admit she has not watched Legends and Leapers before?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't admit that at all.
I'm just
She
checking.
said she didn't know what to expect from us. You know what I mean? It's one thing watching, it's another thing being a part of.
Thank you.
Speaking of which, we want to make sure, because representation matters, we want to make sure that we have really good representation in 2023. And with Brandon being our first airline, like, we need to start getting representation from industries within the aviation industry that we haven't necessarily heard from. Because I think that Brandon definitely brought an insight that we haven't heard before. So if you know of anyone, legend or leaper, that's in an industry within the aviation industry that we haven't heard from yet, we definitely want to hear from them. So hit up info@amac-org.com and provide us with that insight, or you can feel free to send Ricky or I an email. So Ricky, any closing remarks, sir?
No, I'll just say, great panelists. Thiané, every time you opened your mouth, you said something profound. I mean, even when you said, because every time you said something, the chat room blew up. You said, ain't nobody calling you that. I mean, the chat room blew up.
It's like, sir, we have never called you Ricky, okay? But Ricky, we love you nonetheless.
We do.
Everyone that has stayed on, thank you so much. You all have been fired up in this chat. The amazing questions. We truly appreciate it. We know that this is the last Legends and Leapers for 2022. So we wish you all nothing but peace and blessings and happiness, and just growth, prosperity, all of that good stuff going into 2023. Remember, choose you.
And don't stay in that seat.
And don't stay in the seat.
And don't stay in that seat. So we will see you all in January 2023. And we better see you in San Antonio in June. So thank you all so much. Happy holidays. And we'll see you all soon. Nicholas said Lauryn and Rick.
Lauryn and Rick Hay. It says Rick Hay and Lauryn. And I'm going to have to call both of y'all that. So bye, y'all. Bye, Lauryn. Bye, Rick Hay.
Bye, Rick. Bye, Thiané.
Bye, China. See you later, China. Okay. I'm sorry, not China. See you later, China.
Thiané.
It's getting worse. It's getting worse. I'm gone, y'all. Bye.
All right. Take care. Bye.